Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. You have joined NEDMA's bi-weekly webinar to help all of us marketers try to figure out the best way to navigate these uncharted waters that we find ourselves in during COVID-19 and certainly other things. Let's see, Mariah Hunt was going to be able to join us today and something came up at the last moment. So huge thanks to her. Mariah is president of the New England Direct Marketing Association, and along with Pat Lee and Beth Drysdale, they're responsible for getting this whole show together. Another huge thanks to Robert Lee and his team at ShaLaLaLa Productions, which is doing all the behind-the-scenes work to make this look as good as it can. My name is Bruce McMeekin, and I've been associated with NEDMA for, gosh, probably 20 years in one form or another. So very happy to have a chance to be here today to share some thinking. I have a company called BKM Marketing, which started in 2002, and we've done a lot of B2B marketing in these, I guess, now 18 years. So let's just jump right into it. Today, we're going to try and organize our thinking into just really three different areas. A quick review of today's realities, not that we really need one, but things are changing constantly. So I just thought I'd set the stage there. Also, I'd like to take a quick review of some of the B2B marketing thought leaders and what they're thinking right now. And then we'll digest some of that and then turn that into priorities that are going to help you, B2B marketers, or even B2C marketers, if you're listening as well, today as well. So let's start with the evolving normal. So no doubt, we all know thousands of trade shows have been canceled. And this list that you can't even read probably is just a snippet of just the tech conferences that have been canceled, postponed, or going virtual. Events make up 24% of B2B marketing budgets on average, and about 4 out of 10 marketers say conferences are the most effective way of prospecting and generating new leads. So the inability to connect with both clients and prospects at all of these wonderful events that we all know and love is very upsetting in terms of how B2B marketing gets done. It's probably the largest disruption of the ones we'll talk about. Corporate entertainment also on pause. We see Gillette Stadium sitting there empty, and that's sad to see. Baseball's going on in empty stadiums, and the big dinners we used to enjoy, we will enjoy again, but we're not enjoying them now. So where is everybody? Well, odds are most of you are actually sitting at home, hopefully in shorts and nice and relaxed. But the interesting thing about all of this is a recent survey by Global Workplace Analytics is predicting that once all of this is over and the pandemic ends, 25 to 30% of workers will continue working from home. And it's actually, most companies are finding that maybe they're not, batting 1,000 all the time, but they're operating at a good 90%, 80% efficiency. And when you start putting in the fact that that can be expensive, a lot of companies are focused on sustainability now, so there's certainly tremendous benefits to the environment. And on top of that, if you're a firm in a high cost of living area, such as San Francisco or New York or Boston, if you adopt this remote model, you can take advantage of highly skilled talent from lower cost living regions and also gain savings that way. So this is something that we need to adapt to for sure. When I first picked out this image, I didn't notice there was a little spy in the background, and I did actually check this out. He did sign an NDA. If you're lucky enough to find someone to meet with locally, it's usually done outside, not necessarily inside. But the meetings still just aren't the same. There's definitely an air of, wow, this is very different, and we're still all getting used to this. A lot of the B2B media options that we used before, such as, relied on folks commuting. So things like radio, certainly outdoor. These types of media aren't effective at the moment because there's no one actually out and about trying to see us. And as much as I hate to admit it, B2B direct marketing has become really challenging as well, especially when targeting larger companies, since no one is there to answer the phone if you're doing direct calling, and direct mail. If it's sent standard class, odds are it's not getting forwarded, and even first class mail is probably not getting forwarded to the right decision makers. So that too is a challenge. And as if the pandemic alone wasn't enough, we're seeing a very special time, I think, in terms of the much needed and long overdue reckoning surrounded social justice and racial equity. And it's absolutely impacting brand strategy for virtually every marketer. This image here in Portland is in front of an Apple store. And I'm not sure if that's an Apple ordained message or not, but it is now, because this is a picture that's been seen widely. And it's something we all need to think about and get much better at. So I'm excited about this change and hope it sticks. But you have to remember what started all of this. And it's a little teeny tiny virus that are making millions of people sick, dying, hungry, jobless. They're losing hope. While the pain for some of us may be just what you see on our telephone news alerts, an increasing number of us now know someone that's been directly affected. I'm not sure what that exact percentage is, but this is becoming very, very real. And as marketers, we have a responsibility to stay positive, help our customers adapt, and continue the march forward, because we have a voice. The voice, if we use it correctly, can impact a lot of nice changes. And at this point, I'm changing the tone of this presentation, and we're going to get more onto the positive side. So as we transition, we're finding many marketing professionals in the companies they work for are truly deer frozen in headlights. We don't know when this is going to end, so we wait. We dream that marketing and sales will return to the comfort zones that we've become very good at being in. We don't know if that will actually return or not. But there are two phrases or words I promised I would not use in this presentation. One of them is, we'll just call it fill in the blank normal. I think you know what that word might be. I'd like to call it evolving normal instead of fill in the blank normal. One by one, we're overcoming the challenges we've just talked about. We're adapting, we're innovating, we're taking 2 steps forward, we're taking 1 step back. That's progress. But if you think about it, we're always overcoming challenges like this, not just in times of crisis, but we're always innovating. So this type of progress that we're going through is in fact very normal. It's the evolving normal, and it's just the pace that's quickened. The second, we'll call it a Voldemort word, which must not be spoken, is the word that's opposite of precedented. And you can put the UN in front of it and you'll know exactly what I mean. But economically, what we're seeing right now is remarkably similar to previous recessions and crises. Business slows down, unemployment rises, governments and central banks provide stimulus, corporations pivot, and we recover. Many of you may be familiar with a philosopher, author, motivational speaker named Wayne Dyer. One of my favorite lines of his is, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So let's look at these times as precedented. And if you look at this chart here, this is showing what happened in the recession in the early 80s. It's a study, and actually there's many studies like this, and it's held true every single time we've had a recession. So the businesses that keep advertising during recessions enjoy longer-term sales growth after the recession. So if you look at the black lines, these are the firms that did not cut in years 3 or 4. If you see the line there where recession starts here, it started in full force year 3, so that would have been 1982 and 83, which had a lot of turmoil. Companies that continued to advertise, by the time we reached year 6, you'll find that those companies' revenues skyrocketed versus those that went dark. So we've seen this happen before. In the past, we've cured complex diseases such as this one. We've endured periods of uncertainty. We've honored the heroes that seem to come through every single time, and they're different every single time, be it a war, be it a pandemic. So I'm 100% certain that our society will navigate through this, and we will once again celebrate all the good things we like to celebrate. And so let's jump into some of the thought leadership ideas. There's been plenty of commentary. There's a lot of survey work being done, which is very interesting. We'll talk a bit about that. Deep thinking. So let's start with, in no particular order, Forrester. Last week, Forrester just released a new study called Winning the New B2B Buyer. And it talks about the importance of being open, reducing buyer frustration, and building trust. Actually, for all of these slides that we're going through, you'll see a link on the bottom. When you get the deck here, that link is active, and you can actually be able to download the piece. So we'll make sure we get that sent out to you shortly. Modern B2B buyers want to be treated more as partners and less as customers. So they are demanding open access to information, a consistent experience across the organization that is providing services. Transparency and trust will be key, and actually help transform these partnerships into something that'll be as productive as possible. And another big piece of their research here also suggests that creating communities to share expert advice with peers is going to be more valuable than probably anything else, and we're seeing evidence of this already. LinkedIn has been doing a lot with their tagline, "In it together," and just take a quick look at that sometime when you're online. Not now, and you'll see how effective these communities can be. So Gartner. Forrester and Gartner are often said in the same breath, so let's keep them in that same order here. They also just recently released a CMO spending survey, and this is an annual survey that they put together. There's a few key takeaways here. First key takeaway is a disconnect between CMOs, who we marketers, we tend to be optimistic, but 3 out of 4 of us expect COVID-19's near-term negative impacts to be very short. However, the folks that manage the overall businesses, their C-suite colleagues, the CFOs, the CEOs, etc., don't necessarily agree. So that's an interesting dichotomy that's going on, and actually a lot of our clients are experiencing sort of this inertia between 2 different viewpoints in-house. The other key point here, no surprise, is there's budget cutting going on, and this is a forecast, this chart that you see here, that talks about where certain channels will be increased and decreased. And if you look at the top, all but the last one on the bottom, which is offline advertising, we're seeing a lot of folks planning to increase digital advertising, email marketing, mobile marketing, et cetera. No surprise there, but the key insight from this is digital is king. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Phase 5. It's another research company. They focus a lot on financial services. And they just did a tremendous piece of work looking at how banks have actually behaved and helped or not helped small businesses over the last 6 months. We all know small business behaviors have changed dramatically during that period. Some sadly have closed. Some pivoted to more digital delivery and digital transactions, especially in the retail and service space, liquor store space. Really had been trying hard to keep customers safe as well as supplied with whatever it is they're selling. So, but as they went through this, banks and credit unions became a critical path. So supporting from support from financial institutions during this pandemic, and granted it was a huge challenge for every bank and every credit union, but the key insight here is that current customers that banks and credit unions were serving really felt like they were left out in the cold. And then, banks have been touting for a long time how technologically advanced they can actually be in terms of providing online banking, mobile banking, so on and so forth. And the viewpoint here, and this was actually a repeat question from a survey 6 months ago, now that more small businesses are using the online mobile services, they're finding that they actually aren't as satisfied with them as they thought. So the key takeaway here is, we're all being disrupted. You do need to absolutely make sure you take good care of your customers. Marketing profs, I'm sure most of you are familiar with. That they're a very strong voice in B2B marketing. It was July 21st, actually, one of their contributors, Mike Seaman, put together 5 thoughts about what we need to be doing. And some of this is common sense, but it certainly reinforces a lot of what the others are saying as well. Rethinking your overall narrative, and that might even include your value proposition as a B2B marketer. Making sure you adjust your positioning, your messages for sure, channels as we discussed earlier. It's more time, better to be focusing on more digital channels than outdoor or direct mail for B2B. Really understanding what your audience needs this very moment, and it's different than what they needed a year ago at this time. Just like Forrester, forming strategic partnerships so we can get more brain power together, trying to solve common problems is great. Cultivating virtual connections, which I think we've found to be happening, but maybe not as easy as we thought. And honesty and transparency comes through here as well. If you do click through on this article, the key insight, my takeaway was, we need to be sure that we are effective at virtualizing. HubSpot, one of New England's great marketing success stories for sure. They're now in, I think 46 countries, I think last time I saw. This blog post came out, probably in April, I think. And it was talking really about the same things they've been talking about for the past 2 years. And so this point is really still focused on customers, but outside selling, has been shifting to inside selling for some time. And if you just, think of the rise in the use of chatbots, for example, that's a form of inside selling. Offline marketing, online marketing is taking precedence over that, at least for now. I do think offline has a great future still, especially once people are able to digest it more and be found at addresses that the databases have them at. The big thing I want to focus on here, though, is the flywheel. At two inbound conferences ago, HubSpot's co-founder, Brian Halligan, came up with a terrific presentation and a huge insight that the funnel is pretty much dead. It's now a flywheel. And if you think about this makes a lot of sense. So the flywheel pictured here, you have strangers at the top. Eventually they become prospects. Eventually they become customers. And then eventually promoters. As we review things, we actually are helping companies promote themselves. So the idea of attract, engage, and delight, if you focus more on that than just filling your funnel, that's a pretty profound insight. Maybe some of you have seen this before. But the key insight we'll take away from HubSpot's thinking is make sure you delight your customers. Harvard Business Review. This one here, I wanted to focus on the racial justice issue, and this is a article that really explored the idea of when a brand stands up for racial justice, do people buy it? And the answer is it depends on how it's pulled off. It's just been an intense period of time on many fronts. 60% of the U.S. population now say how brands respond to the racial protests that have been going on, largely in June, July, but still ongoing in some places today. They will influence whether or not they buy or boycott a product. So we were just looking a while ago at the Apple logo over a huge artistic sign in Portland. So it's really no longer optional for brands to decide to stay quiet. So there's a couple of ways brands have been going about it. There's a corporate orientation where the ideas of a tone and allure become the tools that we use. And a great example is Quaker Oats discontinuing the brand name Aunt Jemima. They've essentially admitted that this is not a great way to be communicating in the year 2020, and they've done something about it. So another way brands can deal with this is more through societal action, which means acknowledging that things are in fact true and become an advocate. So a couple of years ago, we all remember Colin Kaepernick being the San Francisco quarterback that created a lot of controversy by refusing to stand for the national anthem at the beginning of the game. Nike was bold. They actually selected Colin Kaepernick to become the face of the "Just Do It" tagline associated with their brand, and could have absolutely been a risky move, but it is actually demonstrating how powerful doing the right thing actually can be. And as most people who follow it know, Nike has been doing quite well, especially since that moment a couple of years back. Oh, so the key insight here is brand authenticity. Scaling up, we're getting close to the end of our thought leaders here. Scaling up is a company put together by a real thought leader, Vern Harnish, who has spent his entire career really talking about process and how we go about growing businesses, and is particularly relevant for B2B marketing. Had a chance to see him on, I guess that's last week too, July 29th, on a virtual conference presented by Impact. And it was just 25 minutes of pure brilliance. His thought here in this time is there's really 4 P's about how we will scale forward during this time. People, and making sure we connect with those people, is important. As a matter of fact, his #1 KPI is FaceTime, and he is actually still traveling. I'm not sure if he is traveling on public transportation. I suspect he's probably in a private jet of some kind. But he right now believes there's no better time to meet with your most important clients, your partners, or your prospects. And the quality of his FaceTime has been substantial. But back to the rest of these 4 Ps, price is probably the most influential at this point in time. And the reason for that is it's out of the 4 Ps of another set of 4 Ps, Phil Kotler, the marketing 4 Ps, product, place, price, and promotion. That's the only P, pricing, that actually instantly impacts revenue. So there's another link on this slide that you'll be able to go through, is to a HBR article from 2018, which is the good, better, best approach to pricing. And you've certainly seen this in a lot of the SaaS offerings, software offerings, that are in the cloud. And there's a basic, sometimes even free product. There's a professional product, an enterprise level product, all with different pricing. And the article reveals how important that can be, because it actually allows you to service many different segments with this that have the same need, different budgets, and it gives folks a chance to experience something and consider upgrading, which happens quite a bit. So key insight here at this time, in terms of Vern's opinion, focus on price, because it will give you a chance to move your revenue needle immediately. Top rank marketing, which I think is the last one we're going to look at. Top rank marketing has been around for a long time. Over the last couple of years, they've become huge proponents of influencer marketing. Last month, the firm released a report called The State of B2B Influencer Marketing. And some of the statistics in it are just simply astounding. Virtually all B2B marketers, 96%, that engage influencers on a regular basis, consider their program to be successful. I don't think I've ever seen a number quite that high about any kind of marketing channel. When you dig down a little bit deeper, the statistics are very solid. 77% of marketers say their prospective customers rely on advice from industry experts. And if you think, what are we doing right this very second? I've selected 8 firms here that I find to be influential, and I'm using that as a basis for the next section, which is coming up real soon. Matter of fact, it's going to come up right now. Influencer marketing is something we need to take a good hard look at as B2B. So that's the key insight here. So thinking through a lot of this, and looking in my own conversations with clients and some of the prospecting we've been doing lately, there's really 2 B2B marketing priorities we need to focus on. And the good news is they hopefully are already on your to-do list and have been for some time. So let's look at the insights that we identified from the thought leaders. And if we move them around a little bit, a couple of themes evolve. One is building trust. We used to build trust through human contact. and some of that time is spent as social contact with clients and prospects, and you really get to know a person. You get to know how they think. That's harder to do now, but it's still very possible. So that's one priority I think B2B marketers need to really focus on, is figuring out how to build trust. The other is an age-old priority. It's being easy to work with. And that's where pricing comes through, that's where digital comes through, and virtualization. So I have a few ideas to share with you about those. So and we'll look at these one-on-one over the next few slides. So first of all, during uncertain times, trust has probably been something we're all looking for. Edelman is a firm that has really looked at trust and how brands create trust. So they put together a special report and came out probably just about a month ago. And I would encourage you to take a look at it. But the thinking here is similar to what we saw. Show up, do your part, don't act alone, solve, don't sell, and communicate with emotion, compassion, and facts. So I'm not going to make any political comments at this point in time, but that last one is, it does hit home. So what brands are doing here now, they need to demonstrate competence and they need to demonstrate ethics. So another piece about building trust. We all are on LinkedIn. Not all of us use it as well as we could. I know I certainly wish I could use it more frequently than I do. There's one fact here. Only 1% of all LinkedIn users post content weekly. That's posting. But 9 out of 10 of us actually use it as a content source weekly. So another fact from LinkedIn, it has a role in 90% of all B2B sales. So one of the things here that just makes sense is LinkedIn should be one of your home pages for sure, in whatever browser you use. That way it comes up, and anytime I get on it, I find that I can spend 10 minutes, I can spend 30 minutes, and each one of those minutes is productive and I get ideas. But since folks look at it, we really need to make sure our own personal profile is as strong as it can be, and especially your summary tagline, which is something that shows up in the feeds if you do post or if you share things. There's many great resources out there in terms of how to position your own profile and your activity on LinkedIn. It's also a great way to align yourself with influencers. But one group, the RAIN Group, which is a business development consulting firm, they put together, I think it's on their website, a great 15-day step to just fix your profile, add connections, search for important prospects and influencers, so you can align yourself with them or share some of their thinking. So it puts your name with that thinking. There's hundreds of groups in LinkedIn. We all know there's a great B2B marketing group, which if you follow that, then you can follow the thinking of 5,000, 10,000 people that share that same interest. So the next thing to take a good look at is a trend that's evolved over the last year and a half. We like most companies have been taking a good hard look at our SEO strategy lately, and we were discovering that getting on page 1 is almost impossible now. Why is that? Because the peer-to-peer review sites have really done a great job of creating basically search engines within a search engine that are really focused on specific industry, specific products, and it brings together reviews of all of these products. Even a lot of professional services firms now are getting pretty intense reviews, really thorough reviews and case studies done by these types of sites. You see on the right here just a search for best direct marketing agency nationally, and you see in red the Manifest, Clutch, UpCity, Agency Spotter, Growth Marketing Pro. Those are all of the organic results on page one. That's it. And not a single individual direct marketing company, even though they're kind of in the space and they have clients they're trying to get on page one. So, people who have, scant experience in selecting, something they're looking for, a product or service, they are looking for, something they can trust. And, so I guess the category of these sites is actually called peer-to-peer review sites. If you think of Consumer Reports, they were probably the pioneer in this space 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And now the internet truly has reviews for every category imaginable. So we need to get on this. They truly own page one. You can't beat them, so let's join them. Their whole mission is the same as our mission. They make it easy for buyers to buy. And actually, it makes it easy for buyers to evaluate many options right from page one on Google. So this is all about building trust. This is something we all have to do regardless of what business we are in. We have to make sure we can be found. Building trust, also, the bar is pretty high now. So every firm, claims that they have terrific customer service. We treat every client like family. How many times have we heard that? What this really means is understanding specific needs on a one-to-one basis and personalizing messages. And thanks to Amazon and some other sites as well, we truly do expect brands to know who we are, know what our needs are, and to make suggestions that are truly on target. Seems simple, very far from simple. Just going back to phase 5's research that we talked about earlier, banks really had a hard time during this process because their systems fell apart and they were very challenged. Not all banks, but ones that were relying very heavily on technology could not actually understand what their customers were needing at that very moment, and they got overwhelmed. They didn't have enough people. So when I say people in call centers, their branch networks were closed. So this will come up again when we talk about easy to do business, but the idea here is very straightforward. We need to empathize, reach out, lend a hand, up our game in digital, making sure we keep it personal but not creepy, and focus on really delivering service, relationship building, and not using just generic outbound messages saying you may do this on our website when the voice recorder doesn't even know what this really is. Tricky. Another way of building trust is building sales authority, and especially as we continue down the digital path, we're going to be creating a lot more clutter. So our mission is going to be to stand out from the clutter, and it's been our mission all along, even back in the days of direct mail and credit card offers were coming out. Your mailbox would have 6 or 8 of them at a time. Eventually we moved on to another medium, and we went and kind of overused that one until it became less effective. That's happening right now on the internet for sure. So you need to own a special spot in the internet and in the search world. So 2 colleagues of mine, Drew McClellan and Stephen Wessner, they released a book earlier this year called Sell with Authority. And the whole idea of it is identifying a particular spot amongst the clutter that is truly yours. You want to become the resource that customers will seek and actually pay a premium because you know everything about a specific topic that someone happens to be interested in right now. You'll be easier to be found if you can define your point of view, create cornerstone thinking that's truly yours, and share it with everybody. That's something that's been great about the last 10 or 15 years is the whole culture of content sharing. And eventually you'll be able to build an audience that makes your job a lot easier because they'll be coming to you. You'll own the authority position. You'll be getting invitations to speak. If you do a podcast, or even if you don't do a podcast, you'll be on podcasts because you'll be in demand as a guest. Magazines in your area of authority will be contacting you, say, hey, can you contribute an article? Best of all, sponsors are going to want to associate with you as well. So all of a sudden you're going to be finding yourself, since you own the authority position in this one spot, you will be finding your business there, and often even getting paid to be there. So again, this is about trust. No better way to earn trust than to actually share your knowledge in an area. Joining and building communities. We've been very lucky to work with Eastern Bank for since 2003, so I guess that's 17 years, and we've gotten to know the brand very, very well, and the people there. But one of the things they've been fantastic at, and we've had nothing to do with it at BKM, they have some terrific in-house and other agencies that are doing this great work, but they've built a real community, and especially around the idea of the racial wealth gap. So this was content that started even before the George Floyd murder, and so they were in a huge position at that time to become and actually lead the dialogue in the city of Boston and their trade area and beyond. They put together a virtual town hall literally within 2 weeks after the George Floyd incident, and had hundreds of participants on a virtual town hall. Mayor Marty Walsh actually kicked off the town hall. Bob Rivers, the CEO of Eastern Bank, led just a tremendous discussion, and with a call to action to take a pledge. So this is just one example of how powerful a community can be. And I don't know what the actual number is of folks that have taken the pledge. The pledge is one that serves as a call to action to affirm folks' commitment to positively and diligently working towards dismantling the racial wealth gap. And I encourage you to take a look at it. I actually encourage you to take the pledge. Once you read it, you'll feel empowered. In terms of being easy to work with, just a few thoughts here. This slide I am going to apologize for in advance because it says, this is what you need to do. It doesn't tell you how to do it, but it'll tell you why we need to do it. We need to empower exceptional customer experience. Bain & Company asked organizations a while back about whether or not they think they're delivering a superior experience for their customers. And 4 out of 5 organizations surveyed, 80%, said, yes, we're delivering a superior experience. But then when they asked their customers, only 8% of them felt they were receiving a great customer experience. That's a huge gap. So what do we do about this? We need to throw technology at it. We need to throw data at it. We need to throw commitment at it. So eConsultancy and Adobe just released, I think it was last week, their 2020 Digital Marketing Trends Report. And customer experience is the #1 most exciting opportunity, more exciting than content marketing, data-driven marketing, video marketing, social marketing. Just another thing to think about, American Express found that 86% of customers are willing to pay more for a better experience. And that's a brand that has done a phenomenal job of charging very high annual fees, and also providing tremendous rewards through a lot of their products. But they are backing that up by providing outstanding customer service and anticipating client needs. We've been a client there for a very long time, and interestingly, throughout the PPP fiasco, when every company on earth, or at least in the United States, was trying to get a PPP loan, they went through and listened and cherry-picked about 12 or 15,000 customers and offered them a terrific PPP experience. So that's providing the service and getting value for the fees that we pay them. Video. We're all looking at a video right now, I guess. So, and there's a simple fact here. Sites with videos have 41% more traffic than those without. Social media videos receive 1,200% more shares than just simple text or pictures. And you can read the rest of the bullets as we go along here. Probably the one that's in the blue, from a firm called Gong, using webcam in sales calls increases the likelihood of closing a deal by 41%. So who wouldn't want to close 40% more deals? So video is catching on. I think the pandemic has certainly made us more comfortable with the idea of it. It's hard to get started. Let's just, because there's this thing we have called fear. You can probably see it in my face right now. But if you start small with video, post videos on your website and have them, edited and things like that. They don't need to be super special in terms of slickness. As a matter of fact, there's some great research supporting the idea of the more raw the video feels, the more believable it is. So these statistics are incredible, and I think we do need to all get more comfortable with using video, because if you view videos yourself, you'll understand how powerful they can be. Having a YouTube channel, very, very high ROIs in a lot of those channels. So at this point, I think it is time to say thank you. I don't believe we are set up to take questions today, but I'll leave the screen on here for a bit. My email address as well as my phone number is there, and I would be delighted to have a conversation with you about anything or ideas, or if you think there's some stuff missing here. We're all in this community together. We're trying to find our way through the pandemic, but just in closing, the thought of that we are actually in an evolving normal, actually using a lot of the same skills we were using before the pandemic. We may be developing new skills at a faster pace than we thought, but we're really not in a huge uncomfort area at this point. So the other thing to keep in mind is that this will certainly end. And if you want to feel a little bit better about that, click through on some of the links here, and you'll see exactly how normal this period of time is if you change the way you look at it. So I will stop rambling now. Thank you for being here, and stay in touch.